This episode of the podcast is sponsored by the Oldskool Takeover. Next event, Saturday, March 11th at Williamson Tunnels in Liverpool. Join legends Ultrasonic 3 Frequency alongside DJ Trix and MC Cyanide. With heavy support from Ep019, Kendo and Lee Downey. Limited tickets still available on Skittles from the link below. You do not want to miss this one.
I'm DJ Macca.
This is Paul Louise.
Hi, my name's Robbie Edwards.
My name's MC Hurricane.
I'm DJ Reference.
Hey, this is Mark Side.
I'm John Edge.
MC Stevie Wonder. Hi, this is Bob K.
I'm Les Calvert.
I'm DJ City G.
Yes, this is a JFMC. You're listening to the
Couture 303 podcast with J Viper, baby.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Couture 303 podcast. And for the first time in its short history, we've got back-to-back Steves joining me, not in my studio, but in his studio today. It's the one and only Mr Steve Parry.
Hello, my good man. How are you?
I'm absolutely superb. Thank you so much for doing this, Steve.
No, thank you for having me.
We are in the wonderful land of Crosby today. The first thing that struck me was your postcode is L23 and mine is L24, and you couldn't get two further fucking points in the city of Hartford. It took me about an hour to get here. So damn you, postcode people.
Oh no, I remember the first time I saw Speak. I was like, L25, that's only round the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, it isn't.
Yeah,
no,
it couldn't be any further from the truth. So thanks again for doing this, Steve. So
all good. And also L23, it's like a DJ sort of hub here.
I know, there's quite a few. I've been here before to do. Rob Kane lives down the street, doesn't he?
Yeah, Ian Redman, Anton Powers, Youssef, Nick Garland. There's flipping loads that I haven't even
We'll move on to Anton in a bit, because you've got a little thing with Anton, yeah. You're kind of his boss. You're kind of his boss, yeah. Not in a pervy way. Show me where the man touched you. Right, as I always do with all my guests, Steve, right back to the start. So where and when were you born, mate?
A long time ago in the black and white era. I was born in 1971, born in Lee Hospital, and I grew up in Crosby. Literally, the road from around the corner from where we are now is where my mum and dad always lived. Yeah. And I lived there till I was about 26. And then we lived in Seafield for about 10 years, and then we managed to buy a house literally around the corner from my mum, so that was dead handy.
It's especially with kids on the way. It's a very nice house as well, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice indeed. So what was your school life like?
All good, you know. I was a little bit geeky. I enjoyed school. I went to Crosby Road North, which is now called Waterloo Primary, and my brothers went there. Mel, my wife, and her sisters went there.
Did you meet her in school?
No, this is I'll get to that much later on. That comes much later on. And now my brother is a teacher there.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, it's all like the local. Crosby's like its own little sort of hub. Everybody knows everybody and everybody's business. They really do. Yeah.
So I mean, you're quite an unusual one, because most of the people I speak to on the podcast, they're generally like school dropouts. Yeah, they were all sagging school and going to record shops. But you seem to have done okay in school, which is
I was an anomaly.
Yeah,
I was a bit of a geek. I quite enjoyed it, and I loved being in school. And I quite enjoyed learning everything until I was about 13, and I started getting bored of it all. And that's kind of when I sort of realised I proper loved music. Yeah. And one thing I used to notice is on your school books, everyone used to write like U2 and Simple Minds, and I was always Luther Vandross, Alexander O'Neill, and people used to be like, "Do you like all that music?" Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Again, it's quite a common theme that of a diverse musical tastes. You know, like you say, when I was a kid, people, I think I probably did myself, wrote Pink Floyd on my school book because everybody else did. Yeah, I didn't like the music. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. Yeah. So your musical, what's your family unit like? You say you got brothers?
Yeah, got two younger brothers.
Okay, so
Neil and Chris.
Big brother.
So, I'm the big brother, smallest brother.
Yeah, smallest and highest, but big. Yeah.
But what I do like now is every time we meet somebody, especially when I'm with my youngest brother, they go, "Which one's the oldest?"
I love it. I get that.
makes my week. That does. Chris hates it.
My missus, shout out to Jenny. She's probably listening to this now. Well, she'll be listening to it now. Well, she will listen to it at some point. it drives her fucking mad because like she's 11 years younger than me, and I know I'm lucky to have her. By the way, I'm punching well above my weight, and some of her mates will say, I thought Jay was the same age as you. I say, oh, don't fucking start again. Look, here's a little lad, get over yourself.
Yeah, there's a common female, and he's 7 years younger than me.
You're not got a bit of a baby face there. I'm not, well, I'm not trying to shag it or not. Like Get your hands off me.
I mean, that, we might come to that in a minute. That is, when I was 18, I looked about 14. So there was no way I was getting clubs. Yeah. Absolutely no way. Even when I was 18. It was just like, yeah, that's how I used to get into clubs. Exactly. Even when I wasn't DJing, I found that worked.
Yeah.
You're getting everywhere for nothing. Yeah. You just go, can I leave my box here? That's
and then walk in. Does his mum know he's here? So what would you say your musical influences were then growing up?
Well, in our house, we always had the radio on. Always. It was just constantly on. Sometimes it was Radio Merseyside. Sometimes it was Radio City. And we'd go for like 6 months of a year of one, and then it'd flick over to the other. So I was exposed to flipping everything that was on the radio back in the 80s. That would have been 60s, 70s, 80s stuff. I was always a bit geeky. Looking back on it now, I was obviously a bit obsessed. Wherever I'd go, somebody's house, I'd be straight into the record collection, and I'd always do it at home, and I'd be listening to whatever my mum and dad had. So my mum was into everything from the Drifters to Otis Redding. Dad liked Beatles stuff and ELO. But then we'd have random things like Chaz and Dave albums. And my mum would like ABBA, and so I was literally exposed to sort of all sorts, really. Especially with the radio and flicking between Radio Merseyside and Radio City. You got a kind of
Roger
good
Phillips
mix of everything. Yeah, the full shebang.
Roger Phillips.
The full shebang.
Billy Butler.
But I also remember being a kid, and I only remembered this today. I must have been trying to prepare to bring some memories up. I remember my dad being taking us into Radio City, and you used to be able to walk into the reception and see them doing the radio.
That's right, I remember that, yeah.
And that used to blow my mind, it really did.
Yeah.
Especially
it's a peek behind the curtain, isn't it?
Yeah, and then, but like they'd look at you and wave, and I was like, yes, Tony Snell, or whoever it was, waved at me. Yeah.
So when did it develop to you? So obviously, you've obviously had a passion for music from a young age. I think that generally comes from being exposed to it in all different facets, whether it's radio or your family's in a band or whatever. So when did it kind of develop into more of a hobby? I know you started off as a mobile DJ, is that correct?
Yes, I did. And I used to be mates with Rick Horton and Nick Goodman. Both of them ended up on like lots of radio stations. Yeah. Rick Horton still is. He's doing all sorts.
He's back in demand now, isn't he?
Yes, he is. I heard he said some plans, and he's got some good things up his sleeve, shall we say. But so he wanted to be a radio DJ, which was weird for two best mates to both want to be radio DJs, and I wanted to be, so he did. And we used to hang around with our mate Nick, who was also a bit of a geeky music nerd, and Rick ended up with this old-fashioned double deck built in one DJ system.
McGregor.
Right? It had everything in. This was a McGregor one. Yeah. It had two turntables, built-in mixer, built-in amp. So you literally just plug speakers in, and that's it. You had a mobile disco. Now he got it to learn how to practice to be a radio DJ.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, we could do discos here. So we used to go to St. Faith's Youth Club Disco. It was legendary in the Crosby scene. I think it was the last Friday of the month or something, and we'd both been buying records. So I was about 15, I think, then, and we approached our local youth club and said, we'll do this, we were like, we'll buy some lights. So the lights we bought were appalling. They were like, there's like 6 bulbs that just flashed on and off, and we thought that was cutting edge.
Yeah, smashing it.
And we built this plastic box. So there was a wooden box with a plastic screen. The plastic, I can't remember what it was called, that you used to use in CDT in school.
Like the Perspex stuff?
Yes, Perspex. So it was like frosted. We had lights behind it. We wrote Pulse Disco because that was our trendy name. So that was it.
Marker?
We actually got some transfers and transferred it on. We were being all very cool. And it looked, I've seen pictures of it recently. It's like, oh my God.
Shocking when you look back at it.
We thought we were like cool as can be.
Cutting edge back then, though.
But I don't know if I think we were cutting edge in our minds. I don't think we actually were. But so anyway, we went in and we negotiated a fee of £15 a night between us. So
what year is this?
This was 1987.
Oh my God!
So this was funny.
It's practically a proper wage back then, wasn't it?
It wasn't bad. I mean, when you look back at it, so we got £7.50 between us. It probably cost Rick's dad more in petrol to get around there. Because we were 15, there's no way we were lugging speakers and decks and stuff
They were not. It's like when kids have a paper round these days, they don't actually have a paper round. The dad's got a paper round. He just walks alongside them, mowing them for fucking 2 hours.
I know that feeling very well.
Yeah, you got
yes.
We'll get on to Georgie now. Georgie's not here, is he?
No, and Sophie. Sophie's got the paper round.
I'm not familiar with Sophie, but George has come a bit of a staple in your videos, hasn't he?
Yeah, he loves it.
A little bit of a legend in his own right.
He loves it. Well, I like doing rambling videos where I just talk about nonsense. People seem to like them on Facebook. But if I get George involved, it gets like 3 times the views and comments.
Yeah, so he's a mascot now, isn't he?
Yeah, so I get him involved now.
Yeah, unfortunately,
he's my PR team.
Yeah, and security, he's getting tall now as well, isn't he?
He is, I know. He's definitely going to be taller than me, as most people on Earth are. But hey, that's another thing. So yeah, so this is 1987. We literally went in and we kind of ripped off everything the previous DJ used to play. We used to play in the same order. Tiffany, I think of Alone Now. Beatles' Twist and Shout was the youth club anthem. I remember we got told off because we played Mars, Pump Up the Volume. Don't be playing this! Oh my God. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the 80s. Well, when I say I'm not a big fan of the 80s, for me, the 80s is more like the rock and metal era. Yeah. But for pop music, Mars, Pump Up the Volume. It's a corker.
Fucking tune.
Groundbreaking. Still sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really was ahead of its time. So it's nerve-wracking doing mobile DJing as well. I mean, I've had...
Yeah, it is.
I've like most DJs, I've been there myself and done it. And it's so hard because you've got such a wide audience. Yeah. You know, you're never going to please them all. When you're DJing a nightclub, if you're DJing in a techno club, unless you're really, really shit at what you do, chances are, people are going to like what you play. When you play a mobile function, whether it's a wedding DJ, wedding DJ, 18th, whatever, you've got nans there at 78. Don't play all that bang, bang, bloody rubbish.
Absolutely.
It's an art form. It
was the best training I've ever had, is doing christenings, weddings and stuff. 18th's a sound, because there's 16, 17, they'll get up and dance. But if you're doing a wedding, you have literally got 5-year-olds to 80-year-olds. And what you've got to remember is they're already sitting down. You've got to coax them out of the seat to get up to dance.
There's only
and then
so much jive money you can play.
I haven't got that one. I have really.
Yeah.
So that taught me a lot. That is how I learned musical programming, because you can't just keep playing the same kind of music either. You've got to change it. So if you're going to go from, I don't know, Rick Astley to the Beatles, you can't play them back to back. You've got to sort of strategically go there over 4 or 5 records. And I learned a lot doing those discos, mobile discos. So as you say, if you go to a club now, they don't have seats in clubs anymore. Whereas they used to. I remember when I first started DJing, one of the prerequisites of having a 2 a.m. license was you had to have a restaurant that sold food till 2 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
So there was often chairs and people would be sitting down.
Chicken in a basket.
Yeah, that was it. That was pretty much it. And that is the same kind of thing at a function. Whereas if you go to a club now, there's no seats, there's no food. People are there to dance to a specific kind of music.
It's quite a niche market, isn't it? Yeah. So how did it develop from... So how old were you when you were DJing with mobile? 15. And how long did you do that for?
3 or 4 years. I kind of did, until at the same time, that is when I found that Quadrant Park started doing a under 18s kids night. And don't forget, when I was 15, I looked about 11. So I went to these things and I walked into Quadrant Park, and I'd never been in a proper nightclub, and this it blew my head off.
It's the volume that gets you first, isn't it?
They had a sound system, they had a light rig that moved up and down, and then they put the smoke out, and I was like, what is this stuff? And then the laser came on, and I was like, oh my God, yeah. And I am still addicted to lasers because of that moment.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Really
blew my head. It proper blew my head off. So anyway, I started speaking to the DJ, and something I started doing straight away is watching the DJ, and I was like, how are you mixing? Because the decks we had, they didn't even have vary speed on.
Yeah.
And I had heard about mixing, but I didn't understand how you went from one to another. I didn't quite get it. And then watching somebody do it, I was like, I'm okay. You can change the speed up and down. I was like, right, okay, but how do you know what to do?
Yeah.
And the weird way that I taught myself how to mix in such a bizarre way. we were on holiday in France. It was me and Rick Horton. We were away camping in the south of France, and it was Boss. We were with his mum and dad, and we found this radio show, and they were playing dance tracks. And this is 1987. Nobody played stuff like that on the radio then. And they did a mix, and I was like, oh my God, that's just mixed from one to the other. So then I was listening to a track, and I'd noticed the clock. It had like this flashing light that beeped on every second. I was like, oh, look, they're in time. And it went slightly out of time. I went, oh, if that was a little bit faster, then that would be in time. I went, oh my God, that's how you mix.
Yeah.
And that is how
a penny drop moment.
That's how I taught myself how to mix. Not even on decks. I was sitting in my mate's dad's car, and I was like, that's how you mix. I need to get on decks right now.
So at what point did you actually get decks then?
Weirdly, I didn't get decks for ages because Rick had them. Because he then went on to... Oh, I can't even remember which ones they are. He got some belt drive ones, but they had vary speed on.
Go on, say it. Say Pro 150s.
No, I can't.
It's like podcast bingo.
I will remember in a minute. I'll have to Google it. I should have thought about this. But they were belt drive decks. So you touch them and they were like... Yeah. But I taught myself how to mix on those, and I proper loved it.
If you can mix on belt drive, mate, you can fucking mix on anything. You really can.
And this is when I was... So what I used to do with all those £7.50s that I used to get from mobile discos, I used to go out and buy 12-inch records. And if you bought music on the day it was released, it was often 99p for 12-inch.
Yes.
So that £7.50 would go a long way.
If you knew what you were doing with it, yeah.
Yeah, so I got all sorts of stuff. So I learned to mix with things like Black Box Ride on Time, Double Trouble in the Rebel MC.
Bit of Technotronic.
Possibly Technotronic would have been around then.
Shaka Khan, I Feel For You.
Yeah, I didn't have that yet, but I did buy that. That came along after. So yeah, it was just like the early... housey, poppy, well-known-y stuff. Because, I didn't originally... A lot of Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff as well, because that was the club dancey stuff. This is all... I was like a sponge. It was all pre-internet stuff. I didn't differentiate between whether it was cool or not. If I liked it, I liked it. I mean, I'd been into Iron Maiden. I'd been into hip-hop. My musical tastes go far and wide. I've always been... The first album I ever got bought was a Beatles album. I like all sorts. Yeah. Which I think if you hear me DJ nowadays is still kind of reflective.
Exactly, yeah. It makes you more diverse.
Yes, yeah. And I like that. I don't think you should just go out and hear the same thing over and over, no matter what club it is. Even if I play in a specific club, I'll still try and push the boundaries. Yeah. Because I want to see a few people go, oh my God, didn't expect that.
Yeah. What did he say? A good DJ plays the songs you want to hear. A great DJ plays the songs you didn't know you wanted to hear. Yeah. And it's true.
Yeah, and those curveballs do often get the best reaction.
Of course they do, yeah. I mean, it's quite a big thing now. You get like the bigger DJs, like your Dad and Styles, and they're playing like Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer. Yeah. Not playing a dance version, they're playing the actual track, and the place goes absolutely bananas. I've
seen it on Facebook.
It goes bananas.
Yeah.
So when was your first... So You've started to buy records, you started to buy vinyl. Where were you buying your vinyl from, by the way, HMV?
I used to go to HMV, I used to go everywhere. Because by the time I was 17, I bought a car and I would drive everywhere. Every record shop in Liverpool I would go to. I was a bad geek.
If I have £1 for every time you say geek on this, I can buy myself a new set of podcast equipment.
So go on. Crown Records in Crosby. Because it was weird back then. Every little village and town had a record shop. Yeah. So whether it be Woolworths, whether it be Crown Records, whether it be HMV in town,
Virgin.
Yeah. And I hadn't really discovered any sort of dance music shops by then. The first ones, it was about 89 when I found 3-Beat Records. Because I can't remember what track it was. I must have been going to try and find a track that Dave Ralph played in Quadrant Park Kid Night, and somebody had said, you need to go to 3-Beat Records of that. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell's that? So I went into Quiggins and I was like, weird, this is a mad shop. It was laid out as American records, European records, British records, and that's how it was all labelled, not techno or piano stuff. So I was like, where'd you look for stuff? But I knew that if I wanted David Morales stuff, I'd look in the American section. If I wanted some piano stuff, I'd look in the European. If I wanted some, I don't know, some Britishy stuff, then obviously I'd look in the UK section. But so yeah, that was mad how it used to all be filed, and that was, when I think back now, that's how a lot of music was categorised. So it didn't matter if it was Frankie Knuckles and David Morales, or if it was Joey Beltram, it'd still be an American.
American, yeah.
Because they'd think, oh, you like American.
Do you not think that when I had this conversation, I think it was, I'm going to say Steve Cocky, it might be Ian Redmond now, I can't remember.
Same haircut.
Yeah, same haircut, same place as well, actually, I interviewed them. And like, when we used to go to Drome, like Tony DeVee, I Don't Care, and Are You Already Without, at that time, I classed them as techno. Access, Mission and Tim, I classed that as techno.
Yeah.
And then Hard House came along, and all of a sudden that became Hard House.
Yeah.
Which was great. I mean, I know, again, we were talking about the birth of the Hard House scene kind of came from the gay clubs, and they got the techno tracks and slowed them down and you know, made them their own and stuff like that. But it was weird the way, like, Hard House for me, in this sort of late 90s, was stuff like Wham Do Project, King of My Castle. That was Hard House, because it was house but with a slightly harder edge, a bit more of a thumpy bass line. And then Hard House came along and literally blew people's socks off, like, wow, this is the stuff we didn't know we wanted until we made it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned Dave Ralph there, so how did you meet Dave Ralph? Just through the scene?
Just stalking him, the kids night, really. And also the good thing about a Quadrant Park was the dance floor was sunk down in the middle of the floor, so you had to go up steps, and the DJ box was also risen up. But if you walked behind the DJ box, there was a glass sort of shield, obviously to stop people spilling drinks on it. But you could stand there and you could watch him mix, and that is, I love that. And I'd say to him, what's this track? Because you could shout over, what's this track? What did you do then? How did you do that scratch movement thing? I just spoke to him. So then when Quadrant Park kids moved to Fallows in Aintree, which was about 88ish, I think, approximately around then, 89 maybe, I went there, and the stage was massive, and I used to go and speak to him there, and it was coming up to my 18th birthday, so I used to speak to him all the time.
You must have looked all of 12 by then.
Yeah, I think it was nearly 15, I think. So I said to them, because I spoke to John Cotton, so the kids' night was John Cotton, Dave Ralph, and they came to my 18th with Tony and Johnny, who did the lights. They ended up doing the lights in Garlands and Society and everywhere, really. So these are the people I really looked up to, and they came to my 18th. And Ralphie went, are you going to mix any tunes? I went, yeah, go on, I'll go on, because it was Rick Horton and Nick Goodman who did my 18th, and it was funny, it was well funny, so I think I played Ride on Time mixed with Starlight Numero Uno or something. Sure. And I came off it, and Ralphie was like, right, next Tuesday bring some records and you can do the warm-up.
In Fallows?
Yeah.
That was your first gig? Your first proper gig?
Literally, like the week after I was 18. Literally.
Wow.
So, so we did that for a while. And Tuesday in there was busy. And if Ralphie was away or John was away, I'd fill in for the other one.
Yeah.
And then I think in the end, I sort of got left the Tuesday nights. And then Fallows 2 opened in Speak. And I ended up doing the kids' night there on a Wednesday. And they would get... Fallows on a Tuesday was getting 800-900 in. Fallows 2 on a Wednesday in Speak was getting like 1,500 kids in. It was mayhem. It was absolutely nuts.
We used to go there as well. So I at the time I lived in Netherley, which, as you know from Speak's quite a bit of a walk, like. And we'd go there. I think we were like, must have been 17, and we all had suits on, like we were adults. We were about fucking 8 stone, piss wet in the rain. But I've got a suit on, so. And I don't even think it. I think we were going. I think it was like the adulty night we were going. Yeah. We were trying to, little bum fluff moustache and all that. And we used to walk home from Speak to Netherley. To be about 10 of us, like, strength in numbers, like, but yeah. So go on, sorry, I digress.
Funny. And so from that, I got offered Thursday nights. So I did Thursday nights in Fallows 2. And that was just my night. I was only 18. I had a residency in literally the biggest club in Liverpool.
That's when you realise the difference between L23 and L24. There's not one fucking number.
It was quite a way. I was like, and then I ended up doing... Ralphie got us a few other gigs I used to do. Oh, what was the name of the place? Kennedy's, which was a bar in Wigan. I used to do I did a Friday night in there. And then I ended up being... warm up for Mondays in Fallows in Aintree, right? And this is when house music was really coming through. Quadra Park was really popular, and Monday in Fallows used to be 50p night. It was 50p to get in, 50p drinks,
oh
right?
My goodness.
And it used to be a little bit of house, but mainly sort of indie and a bit of hip hop. And in the end, it just turned into a full-on house night.
Yeah.
And it was flipping amazing. We did a couple of all days that Ralphie organised, and they had Rosala on live, Sub live, Evolution live. They used to have Stu Allen DJ, Dave Seaman DJ, Sasha would DJ, Nipper. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I was DJing at that point. Monday, Tuesday, I'd lost the kids Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I was 18 or 19. I had like 4 or 5 residencies a week in massive clubs. And it was just bonkers. I just thought that was normal life.
Yeah. So did you not work, or was that your main source of income?
I've skipped over a few things there. In the meantime, when I was 18, I'd left school, didn't know what to do, and I was at a party in Dave Ralph's house in Aintree, and Dave came over to me and come and meet my mate John Cassini. All right, John Cassini's a legendary Liverpool DJ, party DJ. Went on to work for DMC to do with the albums and Mixmag and everything when it first launched. And he was like, listen, I'm in charge of a club in Corfu, and we need somebody to DJ there 7 nights a week.
Jesus.
And
you're 18?
Yeah. He went, do you want to do it? And he went, it's going to be a lot. It's a lot to do on your own in a foreign country when you've literally never worked. He went, so why don't you go with your mate, Nick Goodman? He went, we'll pay for your flights, we'll pay for your accommodation, and you'll earn some money, and you'll have an amazing time. So I did. So that's what I did. Maybe I was 17 or 18.
Wow.
I did like 10 weeks there. It was mad. DJing 7 nights a week. I did the upstairs in the bar, and then downstairs was the club. So we were like the feeder bar. We got it busy. And then we sent them all down when we finished at midnight or whatever, and that was it until 3. But I'd do 5 hours DJing, 7 nights a week, and then I'd go downstairs and do an hour or 2. So I was getting a lot of practice. Yeah. I was DJing 50 odd hours a week.
Wow.
So but every night I loved it. I properly loved it, and that was a lot of training. So I did that, and then a year or 2 later I did it again that was in Benitez, the second time I did it in Cavos. But by that time in Cavos, I was a full-on house head. And the lad said, only bring house music. So when I got to the club, I can't remember what it's called, met this lad, Tony Button, lad from London, who's like very well known in the Cavos clubbing scene. He's been there every summer for, 20 odd years or something. So he gets me in there, and he was like, right, okay, so we just play house. And at the end of the night, the owner comes up, why are you playing this music? It's awful. We want party music. And I was like, no, I've only brought house music with me. And he was like, right, that's it. We don't want you here anymore. He went, you can't be in the accommodation. We're going to give it to someone else. So I was in Corfu, and I slept on the beach holding my 2 boxes of records.
Oh my goodness.
Because I couldn't sleep because I couldn't let go of my records.
Yeah.
I was like, if I lose these.
Gee, that's your livelihood,
Yeah.
isn't it? And at that age, that's all you knew, wasn't it?
I was like, oh my God. And then, because Tony already had somewhere to live, and then he was like, you sleep on the beach? Don't be a flipping idiot. Come and stay with me. So me and Tony became thick as thieves, and Tony got us in a few little places, and then we ended up playing at a club called Hacienda. Nothing to do with the Manchester Hacienda. It was just the name of the club.
Steve, just have it.
But it was boss. So this is moving forward. So yeah, this might have been 91, 92 now.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was ace. I was DJing there 7 nights a week, playing house. So I've had a lot of DJing practice.
Yeah. So before I forget, and I had this conversation with Steve Cocky, you used to be Steve Parry, is that right?
No.
You were always Steve?
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you know why?
Common misconception.
I don't like the name. People call me Steve. I just don't like the name Steve on a flyer.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, it's because Steve Cocky was Steve Cocky. Now he's Steve Cocky.
Oh, is he? Oh, is he gone posh now?
Yeah.
That's because he's a boss of a company, you see now.
The VE on the end, yeah. Yeah, I think as he progresses, it might go to a PH.
Or Stephen. One day I'll get to Stephen.
Yeah, but you're not old enough yet. You say you don't look old enough anyway. So how did you end up in the Drome? Quite a common theme on this podcast is the Drome. It's quite a popular club, but...
Well, I had Friday nights in Fallows. Do you know what was dead weird? We started off... It was a really popular club. Saturday nights used to get 1,500 people, and Friday nights were empty. So they said to us, do you want to do something? And they knew I'd been DJing on a Monday. He said, we'll give you the night. So me and Nick Goodman started off playing housey stuff. We were playing big piano tunes, popular stuff. And we started off with 60 people. And the only other night that started... that was playing house on a Friday was the State.
Yep.
And I remember seeing it in the paper because that's how you found out what club nights were on in the Echo club listings.
Yeah.
And I saw
the State, the Conti, the Buzz.
And I was like, Lee Butler, is he just getting gigs because his dad's famous? So I was like, I'll show him. He won't be DJing in 6 months.
Well, that comment didn't age very well, did it?
I've never told Lee this. I'll have to catch up with him one day and tell him this. So anyway, so the State was getting really popular. And over 10 weeks, we went from 60 to 100, and it went up and up. And over 10 weeks, we got it up to 600 people on a Friday, which... That's quite an increase. I thought we were doing quite well.
For Birkenhead as well, like.
Oh no, sorry. So this is in Fallows. This is in Fallows and Aintree. So we built that up. So then Nick left. He was going to university. So and I stayed. And Dave Ralph said, "What about doing it with DJ Trix?" I was like, "No, he's a hip hop DJ." And he went, "Yeah, but he wants to play house. He wants to play house and techno and stuff." And he went, "But he doesn't quite know how to do it." Obviously, flipping former European mixing champion, he knows his onions.
Yeah,
and he knew his tunes.
Just fucking hell.
He knew his tunes, but he was like, "I don't understand the art of playing house." And he went, "And I think you could teach." And I was like, "Really? Okay." So me and Trixie did it for ages, and it was boss. It was good watching him because when he first came on, he was very crossfader, cut and scratch, and which is all very good and fine. It's probably not the smoothest way to listen to house music because for me, you want to go. Here's the cliche, on a journey. And so if you're going cutting in between tracks and stuff, it's not quite as smooth. And I just watched him change his style. And then obviously a couple of years later, Trixie had the Drome and he was playing what was trance back then, trance and techno, but European nobody techno. Else was really playing that, and he made that his own.
So, I mean, again, it sounds cliche now because I think I say there's on pretty much every podcast, but that era in the Drome, 94, 95, it was so ahead of its time.
Yeah, but it really was.
And we were fucking blessed to experience that, we really were.
So, I think it must have been Philly had left. So Trixie messaged me and he was like, because I've obviously been speaking to him, we DJ together here and there. He was like, "Why don't you come on in the Drome?" And I was like, I don't play. See, I've always stood out in Liverpool. I am not your typical Liverpool DJ who would play at most places because if I played what I play, because I'm wonderfully selfish. I play music I like and you should bloody like it. Yeah. And that's the end of the story.
And if you don't, you're wrong.
Yeah. and that is why there's a lot of places I haven't played in Liverpool. So anyway, Trixie was like, "Come and play." And I was like, "Okay, so I know what you play." And at the time I was playing Club Royale in New Brighton. And he knew that I was playing Miss Stu and Tim. He knew I would play. I was a massive Sasha and Digweed head back then. Some of the Digweed stuff was quite fast and tough.
Yeah.
They'd done remixes, or Digweed had done remixes of Ramirez and stuff. And he was like, "Just play that." And we were also into DJs like Billy Nasty back then. And Billy Nasty was the kind of DJ who could play the Drome. He'd be very underground, but he'd have that fast energy and pace of just music that sort of would take the roof off in the Drome. So I played a load of stuff like that. And you know what? It was ace. Especially if I was on first, because I love warming up. Always loved warming up. Maybe that's come from me being resident my first residency being the warm-up DJ on a Monday, and I think it's an art, it's a craft, it's something I take very,
it really is.
I take it very seriously. Probably more so than doing a main set. I put so much time and effort into it. So if I was opening the Drome, I could play progressive house, which never got played in the Drome ever, and then just slowly build up through. Like you touched on it then, I think it was called European Techno, Mr. and Tim. So and then
Wicked Wiper off the house. And one of my favourite tunes of all time, which I first ever heard you play, was what's it called? My Noise.
Oh yeah, Blow Your Mind.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, and that just reminds. Still to this day, that track reminds me of you.
Does it? Well, I nicked that off Robbie Edwards and Les Calvert. To be honest, they got me onto that.
Did you have that on a 4-track with
I think so.
Poing?
No, I had it on. I had it on the original European copy because they got me onto that. Yeah. So I'd be into all that stuff. Now, Robbie and Les were good mates of mine and had been right across this time.
DJ Confusion. Shout out to DJ Confusion.
He loves that. And if you call him Leslie, he really likes being called Leslie. If anyone sees him call him Leslie, he loves that.
I'll message him after.
Leslie Francis Calvert. There you go. This is his full name.
I'm going to guess your middle name's either Michael or Martin.
Mark.
Mark. That's going to be my third guess.
Yes.
Only because of SMP3 anyway. But move on to that a little bit. Go on.
So Robbie and Les were always into this European techno sound and American techno sound. So it was quite natural for me to go to that. So Robbie and Les would always play stuff like that in the Coconut Grove.
Yeah.
Speedy J, Joey Beltram, Joey Inferno.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it used to get played in a lot of the cooler clubs. So things like
they were kind of crossover stuff, weren't they? Yeah.
So you'd get people like Fabi Paris and Justin Robinson playing it in all these trendy clubs, from Club UK to Renaissance to whatever, but you could still play it in the Drome. It was a mad, weird sort of this weird style that didn't quite fit in anywhere.
Like Joe Inferno is one you just touched on then, Travel J. It's that get played in the Drome, but those get played in the State.
Yeah, it was a big state
which is
tune.
one of the only, there's not many tunes that get played in both.
No, and I think Les Calvert he made that tune big.
Yeah.
He really, really did, because me and Robbie used to go to a night called Smile at Rio's, and we heard Fabi Paris play it. Now, Fabi Paris was the most underground of the underground DJs. Yeah. But Les was like, but you could play this here. Yeah. And he just pushed it at his gigs and, of course, in the record shops. Oh, yeah, we haven't mentioned those yet. That's another whole subject. So, things like La Luna, To the Beat of the Drum, that was massive for me. So that used to tear the roof off the drum. Yeah. So, but I used to like that because no matter, I could go really hard, much harder than I would normally go in a warm-up set. In fact, as hard as I would go, and then whoever it would be, Trix or Scott Brown or whatever would come on after me and still take it up.
Of course, yeah.
And that worked out nicely for me.
A little bit of a confession here for you now. You were playing in the Drome, and I was just like, must have been 20, 21, punter, and I was stood at the front. I'd started buying records, so I was a bit of a fucking, like you say, a bit of a geek myself then. Listen, he's gonna play that track now, watch that, and seeing you getting the sleeve out and all that. And you caught my eye, you beckoned me over, and I thought, fucking asked me to come over here. And he went, do us a favour, go over to that bar there and tell him Steve Parry wants a glass of Coke and get it for free. I went, yes, and I was fucking made up. So I goes over the bar and I looked over, and you give the girl a thumbs up, and I went, he wants 2 glasses of Coke, please.
Yes. Smooth move.
Walking back, knocking this bottle of glass of Coke down and give it so I owe you the drink, Steve.
Yeah. You've had one, I owe you another one. Yeah, because I used to be a schoolboy area, you'd be on the stage, it was very hot in the Drome.
Yeah.
They'd have, at one point, they had cameras on you.
That's
so
right.
because of that, they had lights on you.
The big telly screens behind you. But
so
when I played there, it was like that.
Because I think that was made for Trix, because he was so technically brilliant that you didn't understand some of the stuff he was doing. So but anyway, it was flipping roasting. So I used to get people like you, Mike Descara as well. I'd see Mike, come here, go and get us a drink, will you? Just say it to me.
So we touched on it then. So record shops, I think at the time you were working in Groover, was that right?
Groover was your first record shop.
How did that come about? Just being around the scene?
Yeah, Les was on holiday and I rung up the shop, and Cy Edwards' brother Neil worked there. And Neil was like, I'm having a meltdown, I can't handle it. Can you come in and help me? I'm on my own in the shop. He went, just while Les is away. I was like, yeah. And then
3 years later,
yeah, they just took me on. It was they're like, oh, he's all right.
Some talent came out of them shops though. When you think of grooving, I think I mentioned this. I had to do a demo for a radio station, which I can't really mention, but I had to do a demo, and one of the stories I said was if you had a night and it was just DJs who used to work in Groover or Freebeat, it'd be a fucking decent night. There was some real talent came through them shops, even down to the security in Freebeat.
Yes. Like this guy, the world's most famous security guard.
Yeah.
I sold him his first decks in Groover.
Did you? Yeah. They didn't really sold hardware there.
Occasionally we did. We used to have like a booklet, a pamphlet, whatever, with just mainly near Christmas, sort of buy these 2 decks and this mixer package, or you can get this. And Mike, last time I saw Mike, he mentioned this. He went, "You won't remember this. Do you remember selling me decks?" I went, "Yeah, I do. You came in with your mum."
Well, funny enough, on the decks last time I was up this neck of the woods, I went to Rob Kane's to do a podcast, and he took me up to his studio and he went, "Do you recognise anything?" I'm looking around thinking, is there a flyer with my name on, or a fucking photo of me on the wall? Looking at, no. He pointed to his decks. The fucking decks he bought off me in 1998. Technics 1210s, still trucking on. Yeah. So did you get headhunted from Groover to 3Bs, or did you?
Groover shut, and I ended up having a proper sensible job in a bank in Warrington, and I hated it. I was selling loans, and it just used to do me head in. I was pretty good at it because I was used to the sales technique from being in record shops. And I was one of these people, and I hated myself for it, that I had to put PPI on. I hated it. And I was like, people don't need this. It's a pointless thing for you to make money. Yeah. You're already charging interest. Anyway, we had to sell it. And I sometimes, if they didn't think they needed it, I wouldn't give it to them. Yeah. And I'd get proper bollocked for it. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, but they didn't need it. Yeah. He's just ripping people off.
If I wanted to know, he's going to get it all back one day.
When I heard it was coming back, I was delighted. Yeah. I was like, I hope all those people I sold it to. Okay, yeah, some people I hope I helped out by selling it. But yeah, when PPI came along, like refunds, I was like, yes, I hope all these people get a bucket load back, and they've paid off all the debts, or they got the kitchen done. I was like, that's amazing. So I was there about a year, and I hated it. I was earning decent money, a lot more than I was earning, twice as much as I was earning in a record shop. I had a company car, but I hated it. I really hated it. And that's when I thought I need to do something for my own sanity. So I started a little night called Aldron in the Lemon Lounge. So I was doing that, and it was a monthly night, and it was me playing progressive house, because I just couldn't get into Cream. It was just like a closed shop. They had the resident DJs, and you weren't getting in. I used to go there as a punter. There was no way you were getting in. So I thought, okay, well, there's no way of playing a little tiny club. And nobody did nights in the Lemon Lounge, no one. And my mate Terry used to be a chef in the restaurant that was opposite Groover. He used to play upstairs in the Lemon Lounge. He went, I'm on holiday. Will you just fill in for me? He went, Steve, and play what you want. And I mean whatever you want. And I was playing, I think I was playing to absolutely no one, but I was still loving life, because I was just playing what I wanted. I was getting paid. It was probably only 50 quid or something. And I was doing things like dropping the soundtrack of War in the Worlds on top of like progressive tracks. And the owner came up and went, if you ever want to do a night here, you can have this room for nothing. And then ding.
Yeah. Light bulb.
That's how the night came along. And so I don't know how I'd always been, because I'd go and see Sasha and Digweed and whoever, Dave Seaman and Ian Osser and all these people who were playing at Cream.
Dave Seaman, never heard of him.
I will come on to him in a minute. He dips in and out. He's been in the story, but we haven't mentioned him yet. Yeah. So I'd go and speak to these DJs, and I knew Evolution really well from back in the day, who also then went on to carry on doing Fluid Recordings, which is their label, which was my favourite label, and they had an artist called Andy Ling. And if I'd go and see Sasha and Digweed, Andy would be there with Evolution, so I'd speak to them, and I was like, Andy, will you come and do our opening night? And he was like, yeah. I was like, God, I can't believe we're getting my favourite producer to come and play all night at the Lemon Lounge. Anyway, on the day, he phoned up and cancelled on us. So, but everybody still came, and it was flipping great. It was me and Mike Owen. We just played like big progressive house tunes, and we did it a month later. I think we had Pez some 3-beat on. strategic, you see, because I wanted to work in 3-beat. This is the big game. Anyway, so then I used to buy records, and Andy Jarrett used to come and he used to pop along to the night because he was from Lancaster, and we ended up getting Andy to play. And Andy used to work for a record distribution company near Manchester, and he used to do like the mail order bit for the shop. And he was like, "Oh, I'm getting gold. He went, I'm trying to do too many things." He went, "I could really do with somebody to sort of run the shop for me." And I went, "I'll do it."
Yeah.
And he went, "Will you really?" He went, "Yeah." And he went, "I think you're the perfect person for it." So I went to, it's called Direct Distribution. I've forgotten the name of the place. It's in the flipping middle of nowhere. So it used to take me about an hour and a half to get there. He said, Atherton, right. Oh, sorry, I got so excited by that. I've knocked the microphone over and the pop shield off.
Yeah, you break it, you pay for it.
Thanks. So I ended up working there, and Andy had come and DJ at the night, and then I was only there a few months, and at the time I was still so I left a sensible job in the bank, took a massive pay cut, had to give the company car back. I was with Melanie then. I was like, "Would you mind if I did that?" She was like, "No." And I was like, "God, you're a keeper."
Gotta follow your dream on there.
So I did that, but the eyes on the prize was to work in 3-beat. So I was constantly speaking to Pez, and then eventually it happened. Pez was like, "Listen, somebody's left. I need to move into the managerial side." He was the progressive buyer. He went, "I need someone to be the progressive buyer." And I took that on. So then I was suddenly the progressive buyer in 3-beat, and I had my own little prog night. So then it was easy to get guests. Yeah. Because I was selling records to everyone. I was like, "Listen, can you come and play our night?" And that.
Yeah, while you're on the phone, mate.
Yeah, all the time.
What are you doing Saturday?
And so Drome was great. So it was monthly. That it got so popular, we went every other week. And we wanted to keep it at every other week. And then the owner came in and said, "Right, listen, a rival night wants to do every other week doing progressive house in between you." And I was like, "No, they're just trying to nick our crowd." Yeah. So it forced us to go weekly to block them coming in.
Okay.
So we went weekly, and we did every Friday. So this is about a year in, every Friday for 4 years. Oh, that's quite.
And you had some fantastic names on at the time.
It was mad. Now, right, if you don't know the Lemon Lounge, it was
Berry Street,
Berry Street, a room above a pub. Now, this room above a pub had if you're going to rate a sound system, I'd say 4 out of 10. The lighting, 2 out of 10. The toilets, 0 out of 10.
Can we go minus?
Yeah, appalling. Appalling toilets. I never went in the girls' toilets. Why would I? But the lads were appalling. They used to have your urinals half hanging off the wall. That's not what the police
report says, Steve.
And the sound, if it got hot in the amps would trip the fuses and the sound would go off. However, it was flipping amazing.
It had like a warehouse.
Absolutely amazing. It was licensed for 90. Some nights we'd get 150 in there. It was heaving. We'd have Lee Burridge, Daddy Howells, Anthony Papa, the lads from Evolution. We had DJs from America like Chris Fortier and John Creamer, which if you're into your progressive house, you'll know they were big within that little scene. They were like phoning up, going, "Steve, can I come and play all night when I'm over?" I was like, "What?" Was
it a struggle to get the wage for these DJs, considering the capacity was only meant to be 90? You must have you must have been like bottom them out on your finances.
It was 100 quid if you want to do it or you don't do it. 100 quid in a hotel. Doesn't matter how famous you were. And we used to get people like that. I remember Parks and Wilson, who were with Quiver, were Tilt, right? Tilt was like the biggest thing in Melodic proggy thing. They were on Perfecto. They had the biggest tunes, and they used to be resident in Cream once a month. And they were like, "We'll come and play for you." And Cream found out, and Cream went, "You're not having Tilt." I went, they approached us. So they were giving.
There's a lot of that going on with the Drome, wasn't there? But blocking artists.
Yeah. So anyway, so they said to Tilt, "You're not doing it." And Tilt said to Cream, "The biggest club in the flipping world, we'd rather play Aldron. So we can either play for both of you, or we're going to play for them.
Yeah.
And they came and played for us, and Cream went, all right then, yeah, fine, yeah.
Wow.
So, because Cream was amazing, but Drome was the people who were extremely into it.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't want to hear tunes you knew. They wanted to hear what was going to be big in 3 months. They wanted to hear tracks they've never heard in their life.
And working in a record shop, of course, you had your finger on the pulse with stuff like that.
Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly, did you get into some kind of copyright issues because of Alderaan? Alderaan's the name of a planet in Star Wars, isn't it?
It is.
Were I right in saying someone...
That is the rumour.
That's the rumour.
That I spread.
You can neither... Well, it spread because I heard that.
It got reported on loads of magazines and everything.
Yeah.
Because what would happen...
There, Steve. Well done.
What I was doing is, Alderaan had run its natural course. I've been going for 5 years. And I wanted to move it to a different place. I wanted to book different DJs. And I thought, well, it needs a new name. So I was thinking, how can we get out of this? So I made up this rumour.
I don't even know how I heard that, because this was possibly pre-internet or very early.
It was 2002 maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, the internet was like still a smallish thing.
Yeah, but I heard that rumour. I don't know how, but yeah, there you go. So you started it.
So we started it.
Ooh,
and those people,
little devil.
because it got us loads of press about the new night.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So
George Lucas
inquired
about this little night in Liverpool.
He said you're not allowed to call it that anymore. So that was our way of finishing the night. I thought it was quite ingenious.
Oh my goodness! Hats off to you.
I remember and also what happened beautifully is there's a line in Star Wars and it says the Death Star approaches, which is how Alderaan got blown up. So they were the posters I had up on the last night. The Death Star approaches, because they knew that was the end.
Yeah, this is the end.
It was flipping amazing. And the last night was unreal. I mean, insane. It was absolutely rammed. It was just me and Mike. We did 2 closing parties. The Danny Howells was the king of Alderaan. He is, in my mind, one of the best DJs who's ever been on the planet. Definitely in my top 3 of all time DJs. And he used to come and play for me for 100 quid.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, he's done Global Underground albums and toured the world, and he gets played by masters at work, and he's so well respected. But he used to come and play for us all the time. But we let him do all night. He used to proper go on a full on journey, and he'd do the full 5 hours. So he did the first closing party, and we did the second one the week after, and both of them were ridiculous. I mean, insane.
But you've done some fantastic stuff yourself. You ended up actually playing in Cream, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So because of that,
how the fuck did you get your foot in the door finally then?
Because I was in 3 Beat and I was selling to everybody. Alan Green was working in Cream then. Alan's no longer with us, sadly. But Alan said whoever it was couldn't do it, and would I go on and warm up? He said there's a DJ called Tiesto on, and then after him there's another guy
what's
called...
his name?
It's a small guy.
Yeah.
And then a lad called Guy Ornadell.
Okay.
He was on, and then he went, so will you do the first bit, and then will you do the bit at the end? And I knew Tiesto's name a bit, but he was obviously he was playing Cream, so he was massively popular. And I got my foot in the door then, and whatever it did, they just sort of kept asking me back. So I was quite delighted with that.
There were some stories on the podcast I recorded last week, which is going to come out after yours, about some of the riders Tiesto used to have. His rider, I don't want to spoil the story, but I'll just say this: it was 5 A4 pages long.
Really, yeah.
And including stuff like his own personal toilet in the DJ box and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, funny. So, I still don't really have a DJ rider.
No.
I didn't have a DJ font until about 2 years ago. I just like playing music. I'm not into all this stuff. But sometimes you think, better join in.
Move with the times. Yeah. So how did you end up playing in the Zurich street parade to 1 million people?
1.1 million people.
1.1. Yeah. Let's not forget because that 0.1's enough, isn't it?
That's another 100,000.
Yeah.
That was because there was a lad called...
Who counted them?
I don't know. They must have been very busy.
Yeah.
A lad called Martin we used to sell records to, an English lad who lived in Zurich, and he used to play at... I can't remember the name of the club. But I went and played for him a couple of times, and he went, listen, come and play the street parade, and he literally on the back of a lorry. And each time I only played like 3 or 4 records, but it was just insane. Absolutely insane.
There's a techno Viking there.
He probably was.
Yeah.
He might. There was quite a few people there to look at. It was quite overwhelming, but it was brilliant. So I did that I did that twice. That is an amazing experience. And Zurich is a great city. Looks quite like Chester, so it's very sort of Roman style. And then you're going through it on the back of lorries, and there's 25 lorries just slowly driving through a sea of people. That is pretty epic. And then you go in the club afterwards and play till whatever, 4 a.m. or something. But yeah, that was quite incredible, that thing. That really was. But I got a lot of gigs from selling people records.
I imagine that, because you build a relationship with people, and you know, the old adage of, if it's not what you know, it's who you know. Sometimes it's being the right crowd, the right place. He's just got off the phone to someone who's cancelled, and then he stood there in front of Steve Parry in their record shop.
But also, like, so from local gigs to one of my best mates, Carlos Elizondo, is Mexican, born and bred, lives still in Mexico City, and he's had me DJ for him like 15, 20 times. I love it. It's absolutely amazing, just because I've got that job and I was the person selling him records.
And last year you went to Australia?
That was crazy. That was because finally, now I've entered my 50s, got somebody booking gigs for me. I've never had anybody booking gigs for me. I've always just done my own stuff. And he just said, it came about because of the record label. Would you like to do a little tour? So it was supposed to be Australia and New Zealand, but because it was still on the tail end of COVID, and New Zealand was a little bit behind, and they didn't get, I don't know, it was the Delta variant or something, but New Zealand were very strict and shut the borders. So we did the Australia thing, and then, as I say, we were supposed to go to New Zealand, but we had to postpone that for 3 months. So then 3 months later we did New Zealand as well. And the gig in Melbourne in Australia was phenomenal. One of my favourite gigs of the last 20 years. And then when we went to New Zealand, the one in Queenstown, it was one of my favourite all-time ever gigs. So amazing.
You mentioned there about getting people to book your gigs for you, but so where does SMP3 come into this then?
Right,
for those who don't know, explain to people what that is.
Right, well, my initials are SMP and then MP3, so I just stuck it all together. SMP3.
Very clever.
So that is when I left the record shop. The first part of SMP3 was I used to sell records to a lot of big DJs. So Sasha, Paul Oakenfold, Paul Van Dyke, to Graham Park, to Timo Maas. And when I left, like, a few of them would phone me, like, what am I going to do for music now? And we're all going digital now. I said, okay, how about, my idea was I was going to go on to Beatport and buy them records in the same way as I would have handed them records or posted them records and said, listen to these. Because that's what we used to do. We used to send, from 3Beat, we used to send a weekly box to all these DJs. They'd keep what they want and send them back, because if they're in Germany, Australia, or whatever, they can't get into the shop. So Timo Maas was like, yeah, I would like that. Dave Seaman was like, yeah, I would like that. He went, we will pay you to do that. And then Timo Maas said, my real problem is I can't get through these 100 promos I'm getting sent digitally a week. He went, there's just too many. And that's where the light bulb moment came on. I went, okay, I will listen to all your promos and I will buy you stuff on Beatport and I will just sort you out.
Trust me.
A big folder. And luckily, Timo Maas, Dave Seaman, who else came on board? There was quite a few all at once came on board. I mean, since then I've worked with Tiga and Darren Emerson and just a whole wealth of others. Sasha came along, and I basically, I'm not sorting their music out. This is what people think, I'm sorting their music out. They're not. I'm just filtering the very best of the best. Much in the same way as when you used to go into a record shop. And whatever style of music you're into, you would go in, and if you're into Scouse House, you'd go and speak to Rob Kane at 3Beats and say, what's the new Scouse that whatever, that they're playing in the pleasure rooms or they're playing in Wigan Pier or whatever. That's all I am doing with digitally. So that came along, and that's great. I can't believe I was getting paid to go through my DJ Heroes promos. So don't forget, it's a digital thing. So as I'm putting them in Dropbox for them, there's a copy for me as well. So I've always had part of my thing is I have to play records that no one else has got. It's been something of mine I've always done. I've always got to try and be the first person to play something. So this was a dream job. I was getting paid to get proper exclusives that people weren't going to get for months and months and months.
This is going to be a digweed track. And
Just
I've got it before he's even got it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
That's how fucking cutting edge I am.
Yeah, it was. So that was a good part of it. And then people used to always say to me, right, okay, now I'm running a record label. How can I get my music to people? Now, because I was getting sent all this music through all these record labels, I'd say you need to speak to. There were some agencies then, so they would send out on behalf of a label, and I just kept passing work on to other people, and I thought, I can do this. Yeah, I know everyone. I know the DJs and I know the labels. So SMP3 then developed. I still do a bit of the DJ stuff, but I'm not doing it with as many DJs now. So this came in handy. This is another way for me to make music. So I set up my own music promotion company, and a record label would have the music, but they wouldn't know how to get it to these DJs. But I've got all these people's emails. All these
inroads, yeah.
So I set up SMP3 music promo. They'd give it to me, I'd give it to them. They'd get the feedback report, and they'd see that X, Y, and Z is playing the music, and they're like, amazing, we can't make that happen.
Yeah, and you get a load of free, you get a wage and a load of free tunes.
Yeah, so that is that's how it started, and then bar gigs had dried up, so I thought, if I can get one of those a week, that'll sort of cover the money I was getting for a bar gig. Now I'm doing 12, 15 a week. It's my main job. It's what I do, and the good thing is, because of the music I'm sort of associated with, it's all the record labels that I love. So I'm getting, and I get sent the music before it's even gone to the DJs. I'm getting it a couple of months before that.
Sweet job, Haley.
So I'm getting paid to have loads of records nobody else has got. So I'm in a very, very lucky position. Wow. I mean, I could only have done it because of the way my life has been and what I have done through my life and the contacts. I've been very fortunate. I'm just happy that I realised that all these stalking DJs in a way has paid off. It's now earning me money.
Well, it's a progression, isn't it? And I had this conversation with Mrs. again today. Like, I've got Gaz West, Dark by Design, of Grief Records. He's coming to do a podcast. I think he's coming tomorrow. Now, by getting Gaz West, if I go to, say, Alex Kidd and say, would you like to meet podcast? And he goes, who have you had on? If I say, I've had MC fucking Buttercup and DJ fucking Wheelie Bin, he's not going to be interested. But if I say, well, Gaz West was him, Gaz West, yeah, and it's a progression, you know. It's if I want to progress in this and end up with the likes of your Carl Coxes and your Lord Garniers, my last guest can't be fucking, you know, DJ Bingo fucking player. You know, it's got to be someone.
MC Buttercup and DJ Bingo. I like them.
Yeah. Have you heard them? You've probably got the latest one. So it's like, as you said, everything happens for a reason. You can't go from rung 1 to rung 10. You've got to climb the ladder slowly. Yes. And everything you've done in your past has brought you to where you are today. So if we don't mind, we're going to talk about Cellador Records.
Yes. Okay.
How did that come about? Because it was with one of the aforementioned David Seaman. Yes. Not the goalkeeper, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
No, not him. So I've known Dave since 91 because I used to go to Shelley's and Dave used to play there. Because Shelley's on a Friday was Dave Ralph, Dave Seaman, and then Sasha. I knew Dave Ralph. I'd never seen the other two. I saw Dave Seaman. I was like, oh, God, he's really good. And then Sasha came on and blew my head off. I'd never heard anything like it. I thought I could DJ, and I could. I've always been pretty capable, but he played records I would never dream of playing, and he'd make people go bananas, and the way he took it on a journey blew my head off. Anyway, then Dave Seaman got bigger and better and just a phenomenal DJ, somebody I followed, and ended up playing with him at gigs, ended up selling him records. Then when I left the record shop, I started doing that service where I went through all his promos for him, and we used to chat on this will show you when it was, AOL Messenger. Yeah. So it must have been, I'll tell you when it was, 10 years ago. So I'd have MSN open and I'd have AOL Messenger. And I used to always speak to Dave on AOL. And he was like, what are you up to, Steve? I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of starting a record label, chatting on there. My phone rang, Dave Seaman. I was like, hello? He went, Steve, I want to start a record label again. Will you do one with me? And I said,
let me just finish watching Donnie Darko.
I actually said no. And he went, why not? I went, because it'll be your record label and I'll be the admin boy. And he went, no, it'll be 50-50. And I went, the only way I'll do it is everything is 50-50. Every decision is 50-50.
Yeah.
And every time the record label's mentioned, you have to mention me. I went, I'm not trying to big myself up, but I don't want to be
the
admin boy. And he went, yeah, deal. And he went, okay. So, and then that's it. That was it. That was how it started. He said, I think we have very similar musical tastes. He said we have slightly different edges to it, so we can keep moving forward. And what I liked about Dave was, I loved Sasha and Digweed, but if I'd go and see Dave would play pretty much exactly the same I would. He would start off deep housey, he'd slowly build it up, he'd end up playing it quite heavy, and then he'd play a massive moment or two. He wasn't afraid to play a remix of like a pop track, which I used to love doing, because I used to see people being shocked, like, oh my God, you're playing
I recognise that, but it's
playing me a Rhythmix or whatever it be, or a Kylie remix, and obviously he'd produced all the Kylie stuff, and you'd see people go, oh my God. So yeah, and that's how it started. So that was, it probably was about 10 years ago to the day that
you just had your 10-year
our 10th birthday's coming up in April, so it would have been around now that we started doing all the planning.
How many releases have you had on the label?
163 so far, which is flipping crazy, really. So the rules of Celador are, it doesn't matter what style of music it is, if me and Dave both love it and would both play it, the label. That's it.
Yeah.
But if one of us wouldn't play it, we don't sign it.
Okay. And what kind of support have you had from your tracks?
Everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been so lucky. So Dixon to Nadia to Garnier.
You say lucky.
Yeah.
Luck's probably a small part, because let's be honest, you can't luck your way through life. You've got to have, don't discredit yourself from what you've achieved. You might have been lucky in some senses, but I think I don't think you should discredit yourself for what you've achieved so far. Yeah,
I suppose so. I mean, I've stuck at it. I've stuck to my guns. I know what I like. I've always been on it. And do you know what? I watched the documentary last night, the Stocktaking and Waterman thing. Oh yeah, and I haven't mentioned any of that. I might dip back into that in a minute. So, but Pete Waterman came out with a quote last night. He said, "The harder you work, the luckier you get."
Yeah.
Which you probably do. I think that what it means is you're probably opening your own doors, aren't you?
Exactly. You're making your own luck.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not bigging myself up, because I haven't achieved nowhere near what you've achieved. But this podcast started off in my mate's kitchen with a little handheld recorder, because he was doing a night, and I thought I'll do a little interview with him. And then I reached out to Glenn Cyanide. Yes. And he said he'd do one, and I couldn't believe me luck. I've fucking Cyanide. I used to fucking buy the tapes with him on. And then it's progressed and progressed and progressed. And obviously, I spoke to you last year, and I've finally nailed you down, because you're incredibly busy. But if you don't do these things and don't try them and don't keep pushing, Steve Cocky was a prime example. I asked Steve Cocky, I think it was September, might have even been earlier, and he said, yeah, sound. And then obviously, he's a businessman. He's a very busy guy.
He is.
But I kept on him. Yeah. And I finally nailed him down. The podcast went fantastic, and it's potentially going to open some other doors for me as well.
Amazing.
And off the back of that, I bumped into Ian Redmond, who I've been harassing since the last time I came up to fucking Crosby to see Rob Kane. And we were talking outside, and he went, I said, if you know anyone else, Rob, who'd do it, I'll listen to anyone's story. It don't have to be a big name. I just, someone who's got a story to tell, who's been around. He went, what about Redders? I said, well, look, I have asked him. I said, but he's ignoring me. I said, I think he's...
He ignores everyone. I'm sure I've texted him recently and he blanked me.
Oh, probably, yeah. And
check your phone, Ian.
Yeah, if you're listening, which you probably are. But yeah, so you're right in what you said. I think... where Pete was, whatever, you do make your own luck. You've got to be in them situations.
Yeah.
If you don't buy a lottery ticket, you're never going to win the lottery.
No, you're not.
You've still got to fucking buy it, though.
I remember getting asked in an interview once, what if you had a motto for life, and it was, I said, life's what you make it, which it is. You've got to do these things. And then what was very, very, very strange is when George, my son, was born, when he appeared, when he was literally came out, Life's What You Make It was on the radio, and it freaked me out.
Wow.
And then
it's weird.
I was quite happy because Total Eclipse on the Heart came on next, and I was like, oh my God, I'm glad he wasn't born for that.
That's a call on Bonnie. But I was talking to one of the lads in work, and I said I've spoke to, I can't mention it because it hasn't actually been confirmed yet, but
secret.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a minute. It's someone you mentioned before, actually. Anyway, I said I've spoke to this person, and they're going to do a podcast, and they were like, "Have you got them?" I asked them.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
You don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly.
It's another one. Coming out with all the cliches here, aren't we?
Yeah, cliché.
Bring out a t-shirt range.
So radio, you did quite a bit of radio. You were with Juice FM for 10 years, and you did a little stint in demand. So how did the radio stuff come about?
Well, going back to, I always wanted to be a radio DJ. The mobile disco thing was just a side byproduct kind of thing, and then that made me realise I want to be a club DJ. What I always wanted to do, and this is back in 1987, is I wanted to have a radio show where you mixed tracks and you talk, and you didn't do a big thing like, we're going in the mix. For me, I just wanted that to be very normal. Yeah. And it's weird now because that is the norm for every dance show. So, I mean, I didn't get on Juice till, I don't know when it was, actually, 2000-ish. That was another thing through 3-Beat. Yeah. Les was on Juice. I happened to have done a demo. I don't know why I did a radio demo, because I didn't give it to anybody. And then I knew Emil. Emil used to do bits for Juice FM, and I think Dave Graham had just left Juice, and Emil came in and went, have you got any demo tapes? I went, yeah, I have actually. He went, because they need somebody to do a show on Juice. And I was like, yeah, here you go. Literally, I had it in my pocket.
As luck would have it.
And then I went, and they went, yeah, they want to speak to you. So I came in, and they were like, have you done radio before? And I went, well, I haven't done actual radio, but me, Rick Horton and Nick Goodman, when we had the double decks, while our mates were out drinking, smoking, doing whatever, trying to pull girls, we were sitting at home for doing our pretend radio show. Yeah. We had jingles and everything made. Yeah. We were, and we had a set timetable. We were strict as can be. Yeah. I'd know that on a Tuesday night when I was 15 and should have been studying for my GCSEs, I had to go and do an hour radio show in my mate's house that we didn't broadcast. Yeah. No one heard it. Yeah. It was just
militants.
It must have taught us some kind of efficiency and regulation. So we did that. So I learned the art of trying to go from one record to another and talking and firing in jingles. So they were like, you must have done radio before. And I was like, I haven't actually been on air. Yeah. A side note, Rick Horton got a radio show on Radio Mersey Waves, which is a pirate station. And I used to go along with him and mix. Yeah. And one time he interviewed me and we were having a chat, and then the door got kicked in and we got raided by the Department of Trade and Industry. And because I was 16 and he was 15, I got done even though it was his show.
Oh my God.
Got taken to court and everything. It was bizarre. Got a fine. We got told. And I was thinking, oh no, if you're being on pirate radio, you're never going to get onto pirate radio, to proper radio.
Yeah. But how little did you know?
But yeah, anyway. That did me the world of good. So I got there and they gave me I think it was a Friday night, 10 p.m. till midnight. I did my first 6 weeks pre-recorded.
The Red Zone.
And I said, I want to go live now. And the moment I went live, I loved it. I properly loved it. Yeah. Everybody used to pre-record all their mixes at home, and I didn't. I used to mix live. That was my buzz. That was my dream. I wanted when I was 15, and I was living it out. And you'd play records, and the phone lines would light up, and texts would come through, and I couldn't believe my luck. And that, out of all the things, that is one thing. I don't know. See, I'm 51 now. How long am I going to be DJing in clubs for? But radio, I can do till the day I die. I think until I can stop stringing sentences together or can find a half decent track to play. I think I can do that. So that radio has been my love. So I did it for 10 years, Friday nights, Saturday nights on Juice FM.
When Juice was like the fucking the big boy, wasn't he?
Juice was big.
It was the top of the pile.
Yeah. And weirdly,
over now, aren't they?
Shh, we can talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
Steve Cocky's going to get big-headed.
He's already got a big head.
Yeah.
Literally. Stocky cocky.
So I did. It was weird. I used to do Friday nights, and this is weird. I ended up in a head-to-head battle against Lee Butler again.
Well, that name again.
So that
just
was
getting gigs. I tell you now, he won't be here in 6 months.
So his show was on City, my show was on Juice, and it was the nearest time that Juice caught up with the listening figures at any point during the week. So I don't know if that's slagging Lee off, no offence Lee, or bigging me up. But anyway, whatever it was, my listening figures went through the roof, which is bizarre, as I just played what the hell I wanted in the same selfish way. You need to listen to this. You need to listen to this.
But with the greatest of respect, if you're a Steve Parry fan, you probably wouldn't be a Lee Butler fan, and vice versa. Because
no, absolutely not. We're polar opposites.
Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of works.
Yeah, it does. We've got mutual respect for each other beyond belief. But it's like Rob Kane. I don't like anything he plays. He probably doesn't like anything I play, but I think he's amazing. Yeah. There's so many DJs
It's undeniable he's a good DJ. I mean, fucking hell, he's technically gifted, isn't he?
Yeah. I can still say that. Even if he still doesn't live down our road, I can still say that.
Yeah. He doesn't live far, though. Like I said, when I came to see Rob, I went past you, and I think I'd already reached out to you at that point, so we're going back. Fucking hell, it might be close to 12 months. I'm getting close to my 12-month anniversary for the podcast. And I'd reached out to you, and I came to see Rob, and I went, "There's Steve Parry." I was like, "Why didn't they wave?" Because you probably didn't know who the fuck it was. That's why. You're on my screen, I'm not on your screen. So what's your cutting home setup now? I've just seen it in your deck room there. Your little man cave.
I've got my Pioneers.
A lot of porn mags about, Steve.
Yeah, well, they hide well in records, you see. So yeah, I'm a Pioneer boy. I love my Pioneer mixer. I haven't got 3000s, I've got 2000s. One day I'll get 3000s. And yeah, I love it. Yeah. If I'm at home doing DJ mixes for radio shows, I sometimes do it live, sometimes do it on Ableton. So use that on my computer. Yeah, I love that.
And what about production wise? Because you've dabbled in production. When did you start producing music? Was that in an actual studio, or is it like it is now on laptop?
I did one track about 97 on Fluid Recordings, and I went in with Evolution, who were my favourite producer at the time. Made a track with them. It was called Jawa, another Star Wars reference. Did really well. Got played by loads of good people. So I was happy with that. Sold a few copies. Got me a load of gigs off the back of it. Yeah. And then I didn't do anything for ages. I did. I never put it out. I've got loads of tracks that are never finished. I'm extremely fussy. I will only put things out that I am very happy with. Yeah. And if I was in a record shop or wherever, if I didn't listen to it and go, I need that, then I wouldn't release it. So I've done loads of tracks with loads of people that I just was like, no, it's not coming out. Yeah. It's not coming out. It hasn't reached the sort of heights. So I went to SAE Music College that used to be in a building opposite the Liver buildings. So let's have a think. So Sophie was still a little baby. This was about 2009. So I did a 6-month course, walked in, and the tutor was Paul Nolan, who was a mate of mine, and I'd given him his first gig. And Paul's doing really well. Paul has worked literally all over the world with... He's been Sasha's engineer and done all sorts. So
he used to be a property guy as well.
No, that's another one. That's another Paul Nolan. Just to confuse matters.
He sold me my first house.
Oh, did he? Yeah. That's the other Paul Nolan. Yeah. I know both Paul Nolans. It used to get very confusing. I don't think they've ever met. I think the world explodes if they ever met.
Hi, Paul Nolan. Yeah.
I'm Paul Nolan. So he taught me all that stuff, and I did a 6-month, 2 nights a week production course about electronic music production. And it made me understand music a lot more. However, I'm still quite slow with it. So I just go in with an engineer, but because I've got the musical know-how, I can just say, do this. And otherwise, I spend 4 hours listening to a kick drum. Whereas he'll spend 4 hours, we've nearly got half a track laid out. And he just
you get quite
drags it out
over
of me.
little things, the getting the right snare and the right hi-hat and stuff like that.
And I like working with other people who will say, because they'll be like, do you want to try this? And I'll say, come on, let's try it. And they might make me go in a direction I mightn't have thought of, or will say to me, Steve, that's terrible. And I'm like, no, it's all right. And they're like, no, listen, it sounds like this.
Me, yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah. So they sort of guide me that way. So I've been doing a lot of stuff in London with a lad called Jay Gilbert, brilliant producer, top lad. We just go in the studio for 2 or 3 days and I come out with a track in the end. I go fully armed with samples and my ideas, and I go in with a load of references. I like the bass line off this. I want this kind of kick. Listen to the way the break does that, and I go in and we just do a song based on song. I hate it when people call it songs. Track based on what floats my musical boat. And I realised why I was never finishing tracks that I was happy with, because I was trying to make tracks that I wanted other DJs to play. And the day I went in with Paul Nolan, who then started engineering me, and I went, I just need to make a track for myself to play, and I don't care if anybody else likes it. That's the one that got me signed to my favourite DJ, John Digweed's label. Yeah. And it blew up.
And that's a reflection of your musical DJing style. You play what you like. Yeah. And if you don't like it, then you're not, I'm not for you.
It was the lesson I learned. It was like, stop trying to please people. I do, right, when I'm DJing, I do my best to please people, but in my own way. Yeah. I like to make people a little bit shocked and come out the other side like they've been in a washing machine. Yeah. Like, what the hell has just happened? I like that. Yeah. So, that's what I should do with my production. So,
definitely.
So I haven't been in London for a while because Jay is brilliant, but he's now working with pop stars and David Morales, and he's getting bigger and bigger. And of course, he should be doing all that sort of stuff. So I've got a few collaborations on the go, many that I'm doing remotely. One with Renato Cohen, who's a Brazilian techno producer. He's
fucking track that, mate.
I speak to him all the time. So I was like, come on, let's do a track together. And then a few others that we've sort of got on the go, and they'll probably come out on our label over this year. I've suddenly thought this year I'm going to make a load of tracks with people who I like, and everyone I've asked is like, yeah, let's make a track together. Yeah. So I suppose we're all like-minded musical kind of people in this who want to go to the same kind of gigs and probably like the same people.
So that's what they say, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, we are going to finish off now with some quick fire questions.
Okay, yes. Good jingle.
Took me fucking ages to make that. Steve Parry, I will take your first answer and your first answer only.
Oh, I've got sweaty palms.
Are you ready?
Pressure this, yeah. Go on.
On a bacon balm, red sauce or brown sauce? Oh, very quick to answer that.
I had one yesterday.
Vinyl or digital?
Digital nowadays, yeah.
Most expensive luxury you've treated yourself to?
Don't know, probably me CDJ 2000s, to be honest.
Horror or comedy?
Comedy.
Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Do you remember where you were on the turn of the millennium?
Yes, I was absolutely spangled in cream in the pierhead.
What's worse,
Sasha was playing, so I was delighted.
What's worse, toothache or heartache?
Heartache.
What do you prefer better, DJing or producing?
DJing.
On chips, mayonnaise or red sauce?
Ooh. I like both.
I'm going to have to rush you.
Red sauce. God, that was pressure, that was.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
White socks, yes or no?
No.
One thing you'd rid from the world?
Hate.
What superpower would you have?
Flying.
Puppies or kittens?
Puppies.
Nintendo or Sega?
Nintendo.
And the final question, what's the best podcast you've ever been on?
Probably this one, to be honest.
Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank
Have you
you,
got
mate.
any upcoming projects or mentions you want to put out there? This is probably going to go out. This is going to be my next episode. This will go out next week.
Okay, yeah, cool. Well, it's going to be Celador's 10th birthday in April. We've got a load of gigs coming up surrounding it. We've got massive releases. Some of them I can't believe that we've managed to get for the label. I mean, enormous. So yeah, my next Liverpool gig is probably it's at 303 with Hernan Cataneo in the Invisible Wind Factory on Easter Saturday. So that should be a biggie.
Steve Parry, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with our next episode, which is going to be Ian Redman from Ultrabeat.
Oi, vibes here.
I'm DJ Macca.
This is Paul Louise.
My name's Robbie Edwards.
My name's MC Hurricane. I'm DJ Reverend. Hey, this is Mark Simon. I'm John Edge. MC Real.
Cyanide.
Stevie Wonder. I'm Mr Steve
I'm Les Calvert. I'm DJ City.
Yes, this is JFMC. You're listening to the Couture 303 podcast with J Viper, baby.